things like expanded routes, bus-only lanes, increased frequency, as these are all key to accessibility. So the current public transport system is not very plentiful in Regina. So safety and accessibility was another theme that emerged from our research. And the organizations we talked to reported that LGBTQ2S+ people, women living in shelters, newcomers, people with disabilities, marginalized and racialized people, do not feel safe often on public transit, on bikes, or walking in the city. And here's one quotation from a participant. "I wish the city was easier to just walk. I feel like a lot of time people are scared to walk, especially once the sun sets. What if you get followed by someone?" And I think one thing that's lacking here is pedestrian culture. So bike safety, again, it's more than just painting lines on the roads. We need to actually clean the roads so that people can use their bikes, because right now it's full of sand. It's sometimes dangerous. And then people get doored, and motorists don't see pedestrians, but they see bikes even less. So it's dangerous. And I'm worried when I see youth leaving at night on bikes. One city that has looked into this idea of safety and accessibility most extensively is Portland, Oregon, where they sort of maxed out on their ridership levels on public transportation. And they finally figured out that what they needed to do was not just promote public transportation more, but they needed to actually start asking different questions. And so Elisa Kane, the Climate Action Manager for the City of Portland Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, made clear in a November 2009 article on the website Fast Company that Portland was taking a different approach. Quote, "Instead of asking how do we get more people on the bus, we should instead be asking who can't ride the bus safely and why." And this has certainly been something that that Portland's been looking into, and something that was rang true in the focus groups that we ran as well. So investments are needed in cycling and walking infrastructure, and traffic lighting and snow removal. One participant suggested there needs to be an anti-racism campaign because certain people don't feel comfortable in public spaces, and those people are often uncomfortable because of being targeted for race and ethnicity. Now, much environmental policy related to energy and climate change is focused on getting individuals to reduce their overconsumption through mechanisms like carbon taxes, and to invest in new technologies like solar panels and smart thermostats or retrofits for their homes. These policies all imagine individuals as having the resources to make these investments, and indeed as overconsuming energy. But what we found is that there are a lot of people within our city, poor and marginalized people, whose energy needs are actually not being met. They can't reduce their energy consumption because they're actually under consuming in the first place. So these were often tenants that are living in landlord-owned housing that isn't meeting their energy needs, often racialized people, and in Regina also Indigenous people who are living in poverty and in housing that has poor insulation, leaky windows, and is in general states of disrepair. This results in high utility costs for the renters, and renters that are either too hot or too cold. We also noted that social assistance rates, those who are living on social assistance, that those rates aren't keeping up with increasing energy costs. And so people are having to make the difficult strategic decisions about where to find the money. Are they going to skimp on their food? So in that case, we talked about in the focus groups the need for energy efficiency regulations for rental properties, and the need actually for a strategy that passes along any savings that are associated with renewable energy infrastructure that landlords might invest in to the tenants themselves. In terms of this idea of unmet energy needs, we also understood that there is potential support for transforming the model of our current publicly owned energy utility from a model where this crown corporation or publicly owned corporation is trying to make a profit to treating that utility as more of a public service. We also talked about community energy sharing programs, which are available in some other US jurisdictions, for example, and that the future of distributed systems of energy production is probably only going to grow, and that community self-generation of renewable power is potentially a key component for many successful renewable cities. So we looked at the example of Austin, Texas there, but I don't have time to get into it. Organizations who participated in our research were also concerned about that they wanted to make these investments and these transitions, but they didn't have any of the upfront costs in order to do so. So they talked about the need for a grants program that could be there for organizations and individuals to finance initial investments in building upgrades, solar, retrofits to buildings, etc. The opposition New Democratic Party in the province did propose something similar to this, but they're not in power, so we don't have it. The Renew Saskatchewan program, this would be a program that would provide loans to cover the costs of clean energy installation or retrofit, and then would be paid back over time from the savings on bills. So just, yeah, one organization, for example, in our focus groups hadn't been able to transition completely even to LED lights and upgrade their fixtures across their programs because they didn't have the capital costs in order to do so. The last thing that I wanted to cover today is along green space. So we know that plants and trees remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. Green space encourages low carbon leisure and mobility, and access to urban nature increases the mental and physical health of residents. And the neighborhoods in Regina that are adjacent to downtown, we heard are full of surface parking that is serving those who work downtown, and that there's a real desire for these communities to convert surface parking to green space and low carbon leisure that could benefit residents. One example we looked at was from Dallas, Texas, where they have a 110-mile system pedestrian network where they guaranteed everybody in the city would be within a 10-minute walk to this pedestrian network. And these would be natural space connections. And they produced these maps available in different languages in order to make these spaces visible to all of their citizens. So that's all the time I have for today. Here's my list of acknowledgements. Please, I'll stick around, I guess, in person for the questions now. And my email is also there. I'd be happy to connect with people about this topic. So thanks very much. I hope this worked. Shoot.